Hello, Monticello. My name is Barber, and welcome to my Facebook Live. I want to start off by thanking Allerton Park and Retreat for this residency and giving me the opportunity to talk to you all today about my work and process. I hope that this can be engaging. I know I can't see you, you can see me, but I hope that if you have any questions at all, that you would type them in, throw it at me. The caveat is that I'm a painter, introvert at heart. Mm-hmm. So, I keep to my studio and I just work. I don't talk to people. So if you guys can chime in with some questions and things like that, that'd be great to keep this flowing. Let's see. So to give you guys a little background about me, I'm based in Chicago right now. I'm born in Detroit. I'm on this sort of Midwest tour. I've been traveling from St. Louis, Kansas City, Omaha, Iowa. Finally made my way to Monticello. And I'm here doing a residency. The point of this residency for me was to just get away. I just completed a residency in Mexico City at Fortuna, and I was there for 4 to 6 weeks. I was there for 6 weeks, and it was really exciting, but I knew that I would need some time to kind of get away and get to my own thoughts. And so Allerton provided that space for me, so I'm totally grateful. Give you an idea of my work. I start off as a figurative painter doing portrait pieces, but I found that they can be a bit troublesome when it comes to viewers projecting different personalities or projecting different ideas on bodies. And I wanted to get away from that. I wanted the figures to kind of speak for themselves and not have all those different biases attached to the body. And so what I did was simply simplify the figure into geometric shapes. It's the fancy way of saying stick figures. And then I personified them with color and textures, which you will see later. What you see here is just a bare bones of it. So if you look closely at the figures, you can see like a circle head, some lines to represent the arms and torso, and spine. And with this, these figures, it's also a glyph. And so the figures, it spells out, text. There's text involved. What you're seeing now is something that I was practicing on. One of the things of being at a residency, it's good to explore ideas. And my work is typically flat. So I wanted to use this opportunity to beef up the paint with medium to have like a thick impasto type feel to it. So, and I was also interested in exploring a grayscale because a lot of times my work is really colorful, and I don't get an opportunity because I love color. So I don't get an opportunity to play with black and white grayscale. So this is just like an experiment of sorts with textures and color. It's a work in progress, so don't judge it yet. I'm thinking I'll be done in about 3 to 4 weeks. I think I'm gonna add some texture, some collage elements to it. I want to just leave it by itself, but I think I'm gonna add some collage elements to it.
So everybody viewing, you can't see me except maybe my shadow. This is Mindy at Allerton, here with Barber. And I had the opportunity over the last week or so for Barber to talk to me about his process a little bit and some talk about the use of color, which I thought was really interesting, and texture especially. So could you maybe talk a little bit, so you said that some of these are in the early stages.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about your process as it relates to shape and color and just how that works for you?
Okay, yeah. So each piece typically start off looking somewhat like, just a plain stick figure. lately, I've been using these stick figures to spell out different words on large substrates like paper, canvas, and so on and so like that. And the color comes into play when I want to narrate the mood, because the cool thing about portrait painting is that the facial expressions usually narrate the story, and it tells the viewer how to think and what to feel about the subject at hand. But when you're just playing with stick figures and lines, you don't have that option. So color becomes really essential, and texture becomes even more essential to carrying your narrative or telling a story in a painting. And so that's how they start. And the reason I wanted to do the impasto, because I feel like that I add another element to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I'm just gonna, and Barbara, you feel free to keep talking. I'm just gonna sort of pan here a little bit. So I think that Barbara's workspace is fascinating, and he sort of made a little joke about cleaning things up before I came in today, but I think that it's really cool to see the materials and the sort of behind the scenes workspace that he's got here as he's creating his pieces.
Here's an example of some doodles that starts off here. It starts off with a text, and then I translate it into the glyphs here. This is a sketch that that's the largest piece there, but this is the previous sketch there.
Very cool.
Yeah. This is an example of some sketches, actually. This is what I consider a sketch or a drawing when it comes to my work, because I'm still trying to learn how to personify different identities, be it introvert or extrovert, or someone who likes the nature, or really flamboyant. So with this particular personality, I was thinking someone who's into nature, not as extravagant. So we got some greens, some cool greens. We got some natural elements of flowers, or leaves rather. Yeah, that is a flower that someone gave me. Which is really cool about this. Once people know that I like to collect things, they start giving me different materials, because they know somehow I'll use them.
That's very interesting. So that makes me wonder, as you're creating a piece, does it become a little bit more emotional for you? Because you remember where these things came from? Like, this came from a particular person, this person gave me this. I mean, do like your community then sort of in your mind become part of the piece?
Definitely. With this particular series in mind, I'm trying to do 100 of these. And so it's called 100 People. It's going to be called 100 People. That's a kickback to a friend of mine in Omaha. But yeah, definitely. All those different materials coming for those different bodies, it keeps me on track. Because the work is really abstracted. It's not necessarily abstract, but it's abstracted. And in that, you could get lost in just the elements of art. And so having the textures or having the materials given from my friends, it keeps me aligned with a narrative, or keeps me on track with a narrative. And I also think that there's energy in materials. So it's nice to have that as a cheat code, actually. You know, when people see the leaves or they see something really shiny, you know, they start, I feel like the material stuff is talking to that body, it's talking to that person. So
Fascinating. Yeah. Excellent. And now we're coming to a much larger piece.
Yeah, so this is one of the ideas or one of the largest pieces that I'm responding to Mexico City. Like I said, I did a residency at Fortuna, and I was on this boat ride and was in this murky water, and all these emotions were happening. I can't get into it because I don't know if it's safe or I shouldn't say that either. But that was a really interesting moment, and I wanted to capture that. And I didn't want to do it while I was in Mexico because I wanted it all to just kind of sit with me. and I wanted to use actually Allerton to kind of digest it all. Yeah. And so I've been working on this large puppy here, and it's going to go back to Mexico City once it's all done.
And so how far along do you feel with this piece?
Oh, very early. I'm still working out the drawing. I've been pulling covers from Sagamon River, right over here, to put into my water situation here. But yeah, I do a lot more looking than drawing because it's abstract. That's one of the benefits of the meditative aspect to creating abstract pieces. Allows me just to kind of sit with the work more so than having it just be like being a workhorse, working on a portrait, trying to resemble something. You know, it allows me time to get in my head and kind of just sit with the piece. So yeah, I do more looking, making sure things are in rhythm with one another, and then I apply colors.
Very cool. So that makes it sound like there's a lot more reflection as you're creating something like this.
Definitely.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so how long would a piece of this size typically take you?
You know,
if there's a typical, maybe there's not.
It isn't. I think I always tell when someone asks for a piece, a commission for a piece, I say you have to give me at least 2 to 3 months, no matter how big or small, because I'm often just staring at it. I got a lot of rules to how I apply, and it's not a lot of subtraction involved, and so I treat it like chess. I want to make sure I make the right moves, and actually, I use the different positions of chess to kind of like lay my colors down, which I never said on camera to anybody, but yeah. But
wait, could you say that again?
Yeah. So like, I always wanted to say this like later, but if a cool way of looking at the work is if you find one color and you like make the move of, it's been a while, but you make the move like of a knight with that color, you'll see, if you follow the knight's coordinates or whatever, you'll find the other colors involved, if that makes any sense. So there's like, yeah, that's one way of reading the abstract. So that's why it takes a lot of time to like create the work, because I'm thinking, I lay my colors down in that way.
Interesting.
And my textures as well, so. Yeah.
That seems like, I mean, for me personally, not knowing chess particularly well, yeah, that would be a concept that I would be interested to dive into a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because I am very interested in color. I don't know anything about chess, but that sounds like a very interesting concept.
Yeah, because when I first started the work, I based them all off chess pieces, and because I used to have knights and rooks and things like that, and then I realized for me the most important part was the pawn. And so, thus the simplicity of the figures, just the circle heads, the simplicity of it all. So there's a lot of pawns, and I realized that instead of doing kings and things like that, then I'll just ornament them, you know, for a pawn or for a person who's like a big thinker, then I will ornament them with headdress, for instance, like this. This is the figure here in this circle, so you'll find that there's a lot of, like, there's a diamond in the head, where the head is, or in this figure there's something shiny. So it suggests a difference, not just, you know, it suggests some type of otherness to this person's head area. And the base also would be, like, if a person is really like active, then the base would be more extravagant than the head area, which is, this piece is not the best example of that. With this work, one of the things that really moved me about my time in Mexico was just seeing a skeleton everywhere. You know, the Day of the Dead is, you know, a prominent part of their the culture. And it got me thinking about my own figures, and I was like, oh, I created these figures, but they didn't have a skeletal structure. Like how would they look on the inside? And I didn't have an answer to it. And so when I got back, I immediately started drawing, which was really great for me because I usually don't draw. I just sketch really fast. I do like these quick renderings, and then I'll ornament them. Like I said, if a person is, I'm really trying to put more emphasis on their intellect or their high thought, then I'll ornament the head. If I'm trying to put more emphasis on their mobility or their, then I animate the torso. But, the skeletal structure allowed me I couldn't just, I had to figure out what it looks like. And I ended up putting the rib cage in the base, so which is like where the foot would be. So that's pretty interesting. And this piece here is ornamented, with around the neck. It's like a neck piece, which is somebody actually made that for me. I mean, they were doodling. We were having conversations. It's like a wine wrapper, and they were doodling with it, and while they were talking, and left it behind. And I didn't throw it away. I kept it, and what was it? Maybe 6 months later, now it's in a piece.
Oh,
so
wow.
it's like, and so when I look at this, I think of that person,
Oh, yeah.
So this piece is called Somewhere Between Mexico and Chicago, and it ended up being about that person. This piece, so yeah.
Oh, very
And I'll
cool.
say less about that, but yeah.
So what I was struck by whenever Barbara first explained this piece to me was the texture that you can see. And so one of the questions that I asked was how literal some of the textures are intended to be, and how much of it is something that he just feels as he goes along. And do you want to talk about that at all? About, for example, so the reason that I remember asking that question was because you can see here this piece sort of right here that in my mind made me think of a road leading up to this figure here, and so I was curious about his process in that regard.
Yeah, so the cool thing about I believe I heard it from Derek Adams. He calls it block abstraction. And it doesn't afford the fading or the trompe-l'oeil that you would typically get in a portrait painting. So I have to create space just using flat colors. So that's the challenge. That's another thing that takes me a long time to choose my colors, because when I put colors next to each other, some recede and some come forward, and you'll see that, like, probably can't tell on camera, but like this color here is the same color as, say, where is it at? Probably the same color as that one there, but they look totally different. It'd be more blue because it's next to a purple, and that cool, it pulls it out the blue. But if it's next to something a bit more yellow, then it pushes it in a different direction. And so I use that type. I use those ideas to push and pull different things. And so I do that also with texture. And Mindy pointed out that, this looks like a road between these two figures, but it also speaks to the roughness between these two characters. Because there's and that's the narrative part that I'm talking about. Like there's a dynamic between these two figures. And the way I wanted to showcase that was through texture. So, but it's also like a road as well. So it kind of pieces it together in that way. But this also leads you, if you follow this to its counterpart, which is here, it leads you to a flower, which is kind of anchoring the piece. So it also speaks to how there could have been roughness between these two figures, but it's leading you here, which flowers also mean, like, nice and love and friendship and all that other good stuff, which is where all the colors are at. Because this whole piece was I was doing my best to create this piece in grayscale, and I tried. Like I said, I love color, and I had that blue right away, and I was like, oops. So everything else is in grayscale. Even this is latent with gray, but I kind of gave myself permission to put some color in the flower, and I pulled those colors from the flowers around here in Allerton. I specifically waited to do that area when I got here.
Oh wow, excellent.
And this is just, I eat a lot of sushi. This is from the sushi thing.
I recognized it.
Yeah. I keep a lot of stuff. If you pan over here, this is like bags full of things, which, is a problem, but it's also good,
Treasures, for sure. Yeah.
One of the things about Black culture is that we make things work, and I try to keep, when it comes to, I only gotten this question maybe like 2 or 3 times, which is great, but often they say, well, what's the Black part about your work? And I specifically didn't put it in the visual aspect because I didn't want to do what Kerry James Marshall is already doing, or Micheline is already doing. So when it comes to Black culture, is prevalent in the process and how things come together, and that is something that was necessary for survival since our time here. And the example I like to use is soul food. We were giving scraps to eat, but some the ingenuity of the culture and the people involved turned that into like a cuisine. And so with me, I try to use different things that are less noble, like sushi wrapper or whatever, and I try to put it into this space of high art because it speaks to just that the innovative aspect of the culture.
Yeah.
So that's the part.
Don't want to move too fast here, make anybody seasick.
Oh yeah, take your time. But so the cool thing about being here was that I got a chance to draw, and so I did this piece here at the residency. It's called I Found It. I was interested in learning what inspired Robert Allerton to come way out here. Like I said in the question, I felt like he had literally the world at his, in his palm. He could have went anywhere in the world, but he decided to come to Monticello. And so my time here was trying to figure out, what inspired that, and to see if I can tap into that energy. And so without saying too much about why I chose this piece, but I felt like this piece kind of represented a lot of what he was doing out here. And up in, you probably can't see because of the glare, but there's some text that I put in there, and that's my response to, or one of the thoughts that I had while I was here. It's not my full response, but it's one of the thoughts while I was here at Allerton. So this is the piece that I'm leaving behind for you guys.
Isn't that gorgeous? Wonderful.
And the tape is a part of it.
Yeah?
Yeah. Often, so like I try to, on here, I have pink tape holding it up.
Yeah.
And so the color becomes a part of the composition because I'm responding to it. And only as of late have I given myself the choice to keep it or leave it. This piece was also tape, but it was with a bright yellow, and I'll bring it to you. It was a bright yellow, and it was here. And what I ended up doing was taking this yellow out and putting the yellow sun there instead. but I just recently given myself permission to do that. So this piece, I wanted to keep that vein of keeping this orange here because this orange speaks to these other colors here.
Yeah.
So it makes this like arc here, and the blue keeps you in rotation there. The cool keeps you there, and the warm takes you there.
Huh.
So it's just yeah.
It's really, really cool to hear you talk about some of the things that whenever you see it, whenever someone like me sees it and looks at it and maybe has a feeling or a thought or a reaction to it, to sort of, it's like being explained like why I maybe have that reaction but didn't realize it.
Yeah, the other motivation of going abstract was that I wanted people to, because every time I say, oh, I'm an artist, they say, oh, I can't do art, all I do is stick figures. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna run with that. I'm gonna do stick figures. And also to prove to society, or prove to viewers that we are actually more visually astute than we think we are. Like we understand the visual vocabulary very well. And when you look at an abstract piece and you feel something, that's probably what the painter or the artist wanted you to feel, you know. But since they're not there to answer it, we're just like, oh, well, maybe that's not right. No, it's right, you know. The same way you look at a comedic film and it makes you laugh, that joke was there to make you laugh. So if you look at a painting and you follow, and you're like, oh, why keep staring at this part of the painting? Well, the artist wanted you to stare at that part of the painting, you know. So it's all the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's a good comparison. Yeah, I like that. Well, I'm just going to pan behind you here if you don't mind, and we're going to check out all of the tools and colors and just everything.
Yeah. Catch this, if anybody knows what feather, what type of bird that belongs to, but
You found that out here?
Yeah, out here. It's huge. Just for, you know, comparison.
I have a guess. I don't know if anybody joining us has a guess they'd like to post about what that bird is, the feather found at Allerton. But yeah, so many different colors to choose from.
Yeah.
Well, it's been an amazing experience having Barber here and to be able to have conversations about his work and talk about his process. Barber, do you have anything else you'd like to add to our Facebook Live?
Come on out, check out the space if you wish to. If you have questions or you have questions later, it didn't come up. Now doing this Facebook Live, I'm here, and so I'm just going to be still experimenting with those first select pieces that you saw. So yeah, come on down and come through, talk, chill.
All right.
That's all part of it.
Barber will be here for another few days, leaving on Saturday.
Yeah.
Man, it went by fast. So Barber's living on site, and hopefully
Which is
Allerton.
awesome, by the way. like I'm working here at the visitor center, but my living quarters is like literally right across the street, so I get to just walk back and forth. That's fantastic. So.
Yeah, he's been out on the trails, out running,
I've been running. Yeah.
Getting to know the place.
Shout out to all the truckers who like give me space on the road.
Oh yes.
I don't experience that in the city. People like to not to share the road in the city, so thank you for not hitting me. That's awesome. No, yeah, but the bird trails has been great. Like the river and the water has been really great. So.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us and answer questions and tell us about your art.
For sure.
All right, bye everybody.